Hi, it's Dave from Telescribe and Nothing Gained, and with me today is Kirk Houghton from Screen Blast Repeat, and you are watching the A.D.K Rock and Metal channel. Okay, so today's video, we are doing another one of our retrospective look back album reviews, where we look back at a particular album from a particular year. We're going back 30 years to 1995 to check out Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the album is One Hot Minute. It was their sixth studio album. But to get a bit more detail on this, I'm going to hand over to Kirk, who's going to take us a little bit through about this album.
2 years in the making and way over budget, the Red Hot Chili Peppers finally released their follow-up to 1992's Blood Sugar Sex Magik on the 12th of September 1995 via Warner Brothers Records. One Hot Minute is the only album to feature Jane's Addiction legend Dave Navarro on guitar, and it's an LP its surviving band members look back on with no great fondness because of the sheer effort and mental turmoil it imposed on them. Maybe his bandmates chose to ignore it or didn't see it, but this album is now considered a plea for help from frontman Anthony Kiedis, who relapsed into his old habits of cocaine and heroin in a period of immense commercial pressure and lineup uncertainty. Bringing in Dave Navarro eliminated the funky guitar approach of his predecessors, Hillel Slovak and John Frusciante, and engendered the band with a heavier, hard rock sound that the new six-stringer did not find easy to introduce when he realised that the Chili Peppers spent way more time in the jamming phase of pre-production than Jane's Addiction ever did. Add in the darker lyrics of Anthony Kiedis and an appetite for musical as well as narcotic excess, and you have a record that could never be Blood Sugar Sex Magik Part 2. One Hot Minute received mixed reviews, with some critics praising its evolution of sound and heavier musical direction, while others judged it an unworthy successor to their 1992 magnum opus. On a sales footing, it did reasonably well, going platinum in Australia, Canada, Japan, France and New Zealand, and shifting 100,000 units in the UK. It also hit the number one spot in 4 countries, including Finland and Sweden. But the Chillis were always going to be judged by their performance in the United States, where Blood Sugar Sex Magik sold 7 million copies in their home country alone. By contrast, One Hot Minute limped to the platinum mark of 1 million copies and stopped selling in any meaningful way in 1996. On the plus side, it spawned 3 hit singles worldwide, with Aeroplane proving to be the most enduring and charting at number 8 in the US and number 11 in the UK. Today, the band seldom play songs from this album in the post-Dave Navarro era, but it's the last of the edgy Chili Peppers albums in the catalogue before they turned into the most successful alternative rock band of all time. One Hot Minute is also a reminder that the Chillis were still one of the most dangerous rock groups in the world in 1995, thanks mainly to their capacity to self-destruct and relapse into addiction.
Okay, now that we've got a bit more background, I'm gonna hand over to you, Kirk, who of course takes us through the agenda for today, and let's go for it.
Looking forward to this one, I must say. Not listened to it for a good few years, and as you saw there in the video, it's the only Red Hot Chili Peppers album with Jane's Addiction legend Dave Navarro on the 6th string. So, Dave, let's start with you. If you can give us the track number as well, which were the 2 standout songs, or if there's 3, which were the standout songs from One Hot Minute?
I would be interested to know if you could even guess what my 2 would be on this one. So if
I'm going to go for Aeroplane, the hit single.
What, Aeroplane?
Yeah, I think you've chosen. Is that one of yours?
No.
Oh, okay.
Weirdly, that was one of my least favourite songs.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to guess what you're choosing then. It sounds like we might even have the same ones, but yeah, go on.
Okay, so I'm going to go with track 12, Shallow Be Thy Name, Be Thy Game.
Okay.
Now, the reason I picked this particular one was, having gone through the album, this is a song, I love the bass intro, guitar harmonised, although they're not playing the same part, but it's the way that they're doing counter melody, counter parts, and it all just feels really cool, really pulled together. When it then kicks in with like the full band kicks in, it grabs you straight away. It's straight into a great groove. It's got amazing funk, big chorus, the layers of instrumentation is really good. The more you listen to it, you pick out new bits in it. It's also one of the few songs on the album that has what I would call a standardized song structure. Many of the other songs on this album they go off and then they're halfway, like a couple of minutes in, they go off and go in completely a different direction. This is one of the few ones where it's kind of verse, chorus, mid-section, coming with a big chorus at the end. The kind of classic standardized thing. So your brain, it's really an easily accessible song. So yeah, very, very easy to get into that one. There are a couple of others in there. Walkabout almost made it as one of my favourites. I thought that was an interesting one, but didn't quite do it. I have to say the other one that really... Deep Kick almost made it as one of mine. Just for the fact that it's a freaking trip. It's just all over the place.
If only the French could reunite when they're whispering that in the background. Like, what's
the thing
going on
was with Deep Kick, I didn't enjoy the song, but I found it so interesting. Analytically wise, from a musical point of view, just kind of understanding and listening to what's going on in the song. But from a chilled out listening point of view, it wasn't a song I would listen to, but it's just, there's so much going on in it. But really the other one for me was Coffee Shop. I guess I love that big fat funk bass tone that had the energy of the attack, the cut. It's really catchy, but it's also freaking nuts as well as a song. Good hook to the chorus, even if it's a little bit silly. There is some silly vocal lines, and that again is something that's very apparent in this album. When we get to the song P, for fuck's sake, I mean, just really, there's some seriously, were these guys on like some seriously off their heads during this album making process, because some of the lyrical content is a bit mad. I do love there's like over the verse there's these two vocals. There's like the clean vocal part of what you're hearing, and then you hear in the background there's some sort of like, and you're like, what the fuck is that? It's obviously kind of following the vocal line, but I'm not sure what the fuck it's saying. It's kind of an interesting bit. It's this distorted, overly animated vocal delivery, great bass solo along with a nice kind of guitar solo jam in that one. So, and that, I mean, funk, bass, and jam is probably a great way of describing this album. There is so much of that in there, and this album as a whole, just not being a Red Hot Chili Peppers fan at all. I had the previous album,
Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
So I had that and listened to it a few times, but really was never something that got my attention. And having heard the singles, so I mean, if you were to go through it, and if you guess my knowledge of Red Hot Chili Peppers would be things like Californication and stuff like that. And when I got to this album, I looked at it and went, I don't recognize any songs off of this album. So like if you think about like their big radio hits that you would say that non-Red Hot Chili Pepper fans would know, there weren't any in here. And even when I went to the ones that are apparently their singles off of this album, I listened to them and went, I've never heard this. I have no idea about any of these songs. But it's a freaking off-the-wall album as a whole. But those were the two songs that kind of, one because it was standardized structure, and the other one just because it was weighty. It was a heaviest track. So they were the two that stood out. What about yourself?
Yeah, they are different to the ones you chose. I'll quickly touch upon the ones you mentioned. Now, the first two were fillers for me. So Shallow Be That Game, I think when we get to track 12, the good thing about this and the album overall, there's no let up in energy levels. This album never dips. It never saunters or falls into a bit of the unknown where, you know, they dial things back. I think it's almost perfect, in fact, the way that they're keeping the energy levels going. Flea does drive the action in Shallow Be That Game. Amazing musician. Him and Les Claypool are the two greats, aren't they, in rock music on the four strings in the 1990s and to the present day. So his slapping and popping technique is really heavy as well. I mean, I don't know what bass amps he's using, but this is heavy enough to be an electric guitar, isn't it, the way he's playing it? But I think it's a bit of a standard first song list, probably because you said verse, chorus, and I don't think there's anything in the vocal lines that really stands out. The conundrum here with this song, Shall I Be That Game, they could have dropped it from the album, but it's too strong to be a B-side as well. So it kind of makes sense why they left it on. You wouldn't want this to be an obscure song. You put all the effort in. There is enough there. Coffee Shop was a single, underrated single, not a massive hit. I think it was only really a hit in the UK, and even here it was, it made the top 40. That's about all you can say about it. I do love it's one of the heaviest songs in there, Canon. I love the flamboyant bass, as you pointed out. Really heavy guitar distortion, and how cool is that compressed guitar effect from Dave Navarro where he's following the vocal lines. That is just so out there. I remember once trying to do that on my guitar in 2000 when I was listening to sound. I was like, I haven't got a clue what he's doing here. And what I like about Coffee Shop on the album, we're 5 songs in, and the tempo again is still near perfect, isn't it? Chorus is easy to remember after one listen, and Flea's shredding bass solo. My God. The good thing about Red Hot Chili Peppers, each member of the band is a rock star. Everyone knows every member, and they've got their own personal fan club. So the guitar player who preceded Dave Navarro, John Frusciante, on that great album, Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic, and Mother's Milk, and then he returns after this. I find myself listening to Chili's just for him, or just for Flea. And there are people out there who just love listening to Chad Smith on the drums, not as much with Anthony Kiedis on vocals. So fascinating, the strong personalities of this band. But yeah, my favourite songs, side B, like you, very near. I think that the title track, great song, really underappreciated. So 1 hot minute, track 10, heaviest song on the album, drowned in excess amp distortion and noisy pedal effects. This is the Chillis saying they can easily navigate the aftermath of the grunge landscape in 1995. Kiedis is much more sensual yet tuneful here in the vocals, and louder and confident. I love the heavy riffing in the verse parts driven by the bass, obviously. Leads up to the swagger of the bridge, and that could be a chorus on its own. So when they produce a sing-along that's even better in the next section, that's what hooked me. And I remember in 2000 hearing this, and 10 years ago I got back into this record and it stood out. And the middle section, okay, it's a homage to the Beatles, but even that works. Now this will surprise you. My second favourite is the song after it, track number 11, Falling Into Grace, which is the funkiest song on the album. The bass line is incredible. How cool is the funk bass? Groove with a capital G, and Flea feeds it through his wah pedal. Navarro's basically just guitar noise in the background. He's taking a step back. But what really does it here is Kiedis works his rhymes around the grooving style before that glorious falsetto of the chorus. And I've looked into it. He's talking about a Los Angeles yoga practitioner called Gurmukh Kaukausa, who's a follower of, because the chorus line is, I'm falling into grace with you, I'm falling into Gurmukh. And when I first heard that, I was like, I don't know what he's singing about, but it's really connecting with me. And Chili Peppers fans, it'll remind them of track number 2 from the predecessor album, which is called If You Have to Ask. Really glorious falsetto. So yeah, they're the 2 that stand out for me. I think the singles are strong. I'm surprised you didn't like Aeroplane. I didn't know that. I mean, I would say that is the one song of this album that non-hardcore fans or people with a passing interest probably do know. But what did you think were the high points of this album, and what were the flaws of it? Because let's be honest, there are some flaws on this record.
Yeah, I mean, the instrumental musicianship of this album is really strong. So they've come up with some really creative ideas. The Dave Navarro Flea connection is brilliant. I mean, Chad Smith is phenomenal on drums. The way he locks in, there's some really nice bits on certain parts of the song, on certain songs where on the outros to the last song on Transcendent, he's got this really nice bit with a triangle and on the hi-hat work. And it's just the accenting rather than just doing like a standardized crash or just playing it safe. He's done some great work, but Flea and Dave work brilliantly on this. And just instrumentally, it works really, really well. There are certain parts and certain songs where the logic for the songwriting doesn't make as much sense to me. So you get a great song. Now, I know you said, "Let Shallow Be Thy Game," the standardized structure, but it made it a lot more accessible. Whereas some of these songs, you kind of get this great groove going off, and then they just go off in some random tangent, which doesn't really. It just kills all momentum to the song. and it makes it a lot harder to get into. And you kind of start trying to work out, and yeah, they come back to that section later on, but you kind of start thinking, well, where did this section come from? But I think one of the weaker points on this album is Anthony's vocal delivery. Some stuff is really good. Some stuff he's going off in sort of very random vocal points where I had to question myself. I'm like, is he purposefully trying to sing off key here? Because he certainly is singing off key and it's not sounding great. But I'm trying to go, is he trying to portray someone who's tormented? Is he trying to portray someone who's high on crack or something? Or on drugs? Or is he trying to be a character? Because this is not how I would say he's doing a strong performance. Now you say like One Hot Minute, he did a great. I put that as a safe track for the band. I said great. I always said it's a funk doom because there was doom chord progressions in there with funk underneath, which I was like, but this was a much safer. They played to their strengths in there. They didn't really try to push themselves out of the box. Whereas on something like, with Deep Kick, with a poetry jam, which is reminiscent of the Doors, kicking that one off, and then it goes off, changed into a high tempo, abrupt vibe, reminded me very much of Faith No More at this point on the song. And there were a lot of times where I was going, this has got a really kind of cool Faith No More vibe there, where he's kind of going off down like a Mike Patton vibe, but might not being able to pull it off compared to where he was on other songs. I think like on One Big Mob, you get this like Suck My Kiss vibe, which was on that particular track, which was really cool. And again, really strong hip-hop funk crossover, really nice kind of interesting parts in there. But then it just goes off into his vocals deliveries in other parts are just really off-putting. And I was almost wishing that it was a freaking instrumental track, because I would happily listen to what was going on instrumentally, and the vocals I found were distracting on certain points. So it just, for me, vocals could be really good, and other vocals could be awful. And when you said Aeroplane, the sing-along chorus of Aeroplane is so off-putting and so frustrating. I really hated that song with a passion. I was like, this is one of the worst Red Hot Chili Peppers songs I've ever heard.
I better pick up on some of those points. If there are some Chili Peppers fans watching this, it's a famous rivalry, the Chili Peppers and Faith No More, specifically Anthony Kiedis and Mike Patton. So in 1989, Kiedis accused Mike Patton of ripping him off, in that LA scene. And then clearly within 3 years, Faith No More are 100, miles away from the real thing, aren't they? And Patton has definitely got his own style. You're right. I think up until 1995, the two bands are very, I keep using the word edgy. They're pushing boundaries. You're listening thinking there's a lot of self-destruction in this music. You don't know if they really like each other, the band members. Not the same with Red Hot Chili Peppers, to be fair, because Flea and Kiedis have grown up, and Hillel Slovak, who unfortunately died of a heroin overdose, they went through high school together in Hollywood, didn't they? Yeah, let's start with what I thought of the high points. Very, very easy to point out. Flea's bass is just out of this world. I mean, like that song Aeroplane, even if you don't like the vocals, that was a radio hit, and you have got some serious shredding in there. And when I was at sixth form college, there was a guy who was obsessed with the Chili's, and he just used to talk about this song all the time, just the fills that Flea's putting in there. What I like about this album, there's a lot of noise and distortion floating around the melodic sweet spots of this record, almost getting to like psychedelic but noise rock levels, which they just don't have on any other album. And he's not actually, other than Warped and Deep Kick, Navarro's not really leading with riffs, is it? There's some heavy stuff, but it's the bass that does it, which is really interesting. And my third high point of this album, strange as it sounds, you can tell that they suffered from writer's block and the album went way over budget, yet it creates like this tension which they're unable to resolve. And I think that's what gives it a true edge. You can't help but like it. It's like, oh, I can see what they're trying to do here. That's a big risk. That one paid off. That one failed. The two weaknesses, you've mentioned it. Holy shit, what is that song P doing on this album? Why are they so keen to play it live? It's like the only song they still play live to this day from this record. It is abysmal. And what I've put in my notes here, what the fuck is this?
That's so exactly annoying. What I wrote.
Yeah, it's so annoying that I can't even listen to it, right? And this is what annoys me. Is it popular because it singles out all the villains of the progressive left-wing elite. You know, he's talking like, hey, redneck, suck my dick, and stuff like that. I'm like, what the fuck is this doing on an album? It's just a rant. It is atrocious, that song. So that's a weak point. And then the other main flaw, I'd say at least 5 of these songs could be shortened by a couple of minutes. And that's before I even talk about the hit or miss vocals of Anthony Kiedis. Right, let me get to where we're playing. Great song for me. I actually think the vocals are good on this. They're not always in key, but it's an underrated classic in my opinion. Because I like how they obviously had the vocal melody or vocal lines before the song came into being. It's one you can chant even in a classroom as, you know, a gang of teenagers. And I just think it works so well, and the bass, and it's one of the few songs where Navarro is playing the clean funk chords, because he changes this band. When we get to track number 1, which we're going to talk about next, I might as well start with this. What have they turned into Jane's Addiction? That is the first question you're asking. Understandable, considering Dave Navarro stepped in on guitar. But even the way that Anthony Kiedis has completely abandoned rapping. He used to rap in all the previous albums. There's hardly any of it on this one. And the psychedelic intro of 45 seconds to Warts, track number 1, I need to get your opinion on this one. I don't think it is superfluous once you understand the vibe of the album later on and the dark lyrical content. This is a plea for help. For whatever reason, the other band members are not noticing or choosing not to notice that Kiedis has relapsed back into heroin use. Read the lyrics, for God's sake. It's right there on the page. Heavy song, good groove. You know, you can see the influence they've had on nu metal. Bands like Korn are very big fans, aren't they, of the Chili Peppers. I would say as well that there's only one band you could compare the octave melody and spacey vocals in the chorus, and guess who it is? Perry Farrell, Jane's Addiction. But there is like a bit of Soundgarden in here as well. Rick Rubin is the producer. The low end, the way he's captured that riff, because Flea changes the song, doesn't he, at 2 minutes 34, and he just goes into this circular bass riff. It's so heavy, and the cymbal crashes. The way that Rick Rubin has captured them, like, you feel like your ears are gonna pop. Fantastic for 1995. You know, so you can tell that they've thrown fucking millions, Warner Brothers, at this album. So yeah, I do like the first song. What did you think of Warped? I'm surprised you've not even mentioned it until now.
I purposely avoided mentioning it because I knew that we covered it as what we always do, the first and last songs. So I thought there was no point discussing it at this point. But yeah, I actually liked the track. It wasn't a standout track, but I thought it was an interesting track to kick off. The atmospheric intro for me worked. I specifically not knowing this album, coming into this album, I really didn't know where it was going to go. So when it kind of kicked into this solid groove, I was like, well, that's the Red Hot Chili Peppers I knew, but I don't know if it really goes together. But I'm kind of like, all right, yeah, I can vibe with that. The off-the-wall vocal delivery is very unconventional, but it's very much of the Beatles. If you listen to the song Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles, this is very much down in line with what that was delivered. So when you mentioned like Jane's Addiction style, to me, the first thing that came off, this is art rock. This is the Beatles vocal delivery. And if you, as soon as he started singing, I'm like, that's exactly the same thing of what they did, that twisted vocal delivery layers of the McCartney and Lennon vocal harmonized. So yeah, it was cool, but just very different for a song coming in, especially after the previous album. So coming into this album, I'd have been probably, if I'd gone from that last album into this album, been a little bit like, whoa, okay. If I'd only got that last album and got into this, because that was a very different. It'd been different if they kicked it off with One Hot Minute as the first song on the album. You'd be like, hey, I know what I'm getting here. But maybe that's good. That Warp sets you up for. It kind of just puts you off your axis for the rest of the album, because you just really don't know what the hell you're going to get for the rest of this album as it kicks in. Every song's slightly different. And even with my notes on Aeroplane, I'll just say that I've actually said that I really like the instrumental elements, just from the chorus lyrics really wound me up, but I really like the verse lyrics. I just really didn't like the chorus, but every other part of that song I really enjoyed. But first song was good.
Yeah, just to come in on that, where you're saying it's a bit off the wall. Certainly the Aeroplane. it's like he's going out of his way to avoid rhyming couplets in the verses as well.
Yeah.
It is so strange when you listen to it. And I'm going to read you this stanza. It says, "Sitting in my kitchen, hey girl, I'm turning into dust again. My melancholy baby, the star of Mazzy Must. Push her voice inside of me." He's actually talking about, I think he's in the kitchen or something, listening to that band Mazzy Star and their song Into Dust. But there's just no consistency in the number of words in each line. And when you've got this crazy bass and guitar going, you're just thinking, you won't necessarily know that he's on heroin, but you're like, have they just taken magic mushrooms for this song? Because it is so all over the place.
This is very much that Jim Morrison Doors reference, where the spoken word poetry of just the band jamming, but instead of just being like jazz infused funk, I mean, but there is elements on which one was it? Walkabout.
Yeah,
it goes off in the verses. This is like jazz verse with like a funk jam with a wah pedal going on it, and this is the vibe of this track. It is just like a musical journey.
Yeah, and that works. I would say, even though it's got its flaws, I don't think there's anything dull about this album. You're not allowed to switch off, really, are you? And
there is one. There's one that's dull.
Yeah, of course, P. I don't even.
And Tearjerker. I'm sorry, Tearjerker is boring as hell.
Tearjerker, I think, actually, I will come in on that before we talk about the last track. You've raised a good point. This is what I put in my notes. So Tearjerker comes in at track number 9. This is a hint where they would go on Californication. Kiedis is not suited to this kind of higher voice range, that he just can't carry the melody. He's much better in the louder projection of the chorus. But I think My Friends, track number 3, is far superior as the ballad of the... Sorry, track number 4. There's 2 ballads. That's far superior. And this would not even qualify as a B-side for Blood, Sugar, Sex, Magic. So I agree.
I just completely tuned out. I was like, got past the choruses, and I'm like, okay, is there anything interesting going to happen in this track?
No, and it doesn't, does it? But you can kind of, it doesn't ruin the experience because the next one's good. But what did you think of track number 13, the closing song, Transcending? What the hell's going on here?
I was really split on this, massively split. So, because I was writing my notes as I first time listened to this. So this will give you an idea. So I started writing. I'm going to read them as I go. Great song. The guitars and bass harmonise each other parts and balance the track. The drums have great use of cymbal work on this track. The swish of the hi-hat, the triangle are standout. The vocals are the best on the album for me. One of the standout tracks. Until the 3-minute mark. And it goes off the wall, and it just didn't need to do it. Up until that point, the track was perfect. Because that was the problem with it. It went off and did it. And I was like, but you've written a really good song here. You've written almost a 6-minute song that's got this section from 3 minutes onwards that you didn't need to do and didn't add anything, but just killed the entire momentum of the track. And I just lost it. I just was listening from 3 minutes onwards going, this just isn't interesting now. You've just made it into a weird part of the track that I don't need anymore. So up until then, though, that would have been that was going to be my standout track for the album. That was like, fuck it, I'm going to be talking about this one. But then I got to it and went, well, no, because I would literally go and turn the track off at the 3-minute mark and go, up to then you were really good, but I just didn't like it after that because it didn't make any sense. And that's what I was saying about on certain tracks, you're like, I don't know if the quality control in the songwriting performance was there, or they were just off there going, we're just going to do some random things to make it so it's not so standardized. I don't know if they were forcing themselves to go, we cannot just write standardized rock. We need to be throwing it out there and being different and being arty and using the influences of being like the modern day Doors with funk in it. And I just don't know. It just, but up until 3 minutes, loved it. After that, you lost me.
Schizophrenic, isn't it? I didn't mind part 2. You're right. This is clearly split into 2 parts. The luscious interplay of virtuoso bass and mellow guitars in the intro. Loved it. Kiedis is confident again here because he has the vocal lines in his head before he sings the first note. And when he has that, he does well. There's others where he's struggling because he doesn't know what to do. I think he does avoid the atonal notes here and delivers quite a heartfelt performance with lingering words and phrases, but it's a bit of a risk. He almost uses like a yodeling technique in that first section in one of the notes and pulls it off. I'm really surprised. Every time I hear it, it's like, when then I'm thinking, Christ, you've actually delivered that. Part 2, though, well, they will think that they've justified this song nearly stretching to 6 minutes in part 2, which is basically a jam session. You've got guitar feedback and wah-wah going crazy. The bass, again, so loud it's going to blow the amps, and Chad Smith's having the time of his life. One thing they do well here, though, there's like this new vocal line of angst, which is very easy to sing along to after one listen. So they've stitched together one song onto another here, and you clearly don't like how they've made that transition. So I do understand, but still a very interesting song. I think the musicianship, we all agree, with the exception of the patchy performance at times of Kiedis, is exquisite. Production, I've talked about it. What did you think of the production?
Difficult one, because it's not a genre or style of music that comparatively wise, I've got nothing to really compare it to. But there was nothing in there that made me go, I'm not hearing enough of something. I love the fact that the bass is so upfront, but I was expecting that from Red Hot Chili Peppers. There is a distinct lack of what I would say guitar riffs are in there. There is a lot of, as you said, the wall of sound, the effects and stuff. There's very few points, but then Flea does such a great job of holding that line in. But there's very few songs in here which are called metal riffs or riff based. It's all funk bass lines with little effects over it, and to be honest, and Chad does an amazing job on the drums. So yeah, no, overall production for me was A1.
Yeah, same here. I said earlier on, I think Rick Rubin, when you listen to Warped, where it goes crazy in that middle eight, the cymbal crashes there, how he's actually managed to not blow the speakers. And they're not using Pro Tools. This is 1995. That just stands out for me. It's like they brought the rehearsal room into the studio, and it's harder than you think to do that. I mean, I know we value that a lot more now, don't we, with the rise of AI threatening the integrity and authenticity of music. So this is another one. I think throw millions at it, but I think the audio engineering is so good. You do feel like you're in the rehearsal room with them, and this is a major label band that are following up an album that had shifted 7 million copies. So I just love the energy of it. Now, I think we might be able to change a trend here. Which is stronger, side A or side B?
Side B for me. It was a tricky one because it's just counted up the number of tracks that I would listen to again. So if you take the first, I'm kind of splitting it 1 to 6 on the first side and 7 through to 13 on the second, but you could go either way. As One Big Mob, which is track 7, would go, I would listen to either that, so that can go on either side. But the fucker for me is P. Just awful track, shouldn't be in there. Yeah, there are some good tracks though on the second half which are more interesting for me. And I think it's a really difficult one. There's eight really good tracks on this album. And then there are a couple that I could get rid of completely, and then there's about 3 tracks that are a bit hit or miss for me. I said second side, but then also the length of some of the tracks on the second side are fucking long.
Yeah, I know.
So you could say that the first half is actually a little bit easier on the ears, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I think the second half is slightly stronger for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. My 2 favourite songs come late on in side B, which is very unusual for an album, isn't it? To think, oh, this is actually the best material. Track number 7, One Big Mob. That goes back to what you're saying, where they lay down this great groove. It's heavy, it's noisy, gang chanting, and within a minute, they've just squandered it and gone into this psychedelic meditation for the next 3 minutes, which does produce some good melody. But you're just like, why the fuck have they done that? You know it's going to come back.
Yeah.
I love the riffing at the end of that. Again, you've got some really tasty metal riffing at the end with a subtle offbeat amp.
But again, 6 minutes long. It's one of those tracks that could have been really done with some harsh editing. And I do wonder how many of these songs came together where they had parts of songs and they just started throwing them together and went, fuck it, we'll just make it work. And
they'll have jammed them together. They won't have, done that in the studio and just by trying to manipulate it. They will make it organic, which is very difficult. But side B for me, I do like side A. You've got the singles on there, haven't you? The 3 singles, which are Aeroplane, My Friends, and Coffee Shop. But side B, like, I'm going to echo what you said, more interesting. It's heavier for me as well. This is a rock album. This is fucking edgy stuff. You know, I keep using that word. Dangerous. This is a rock album with a capital R. So side B for me. And we can come then to our verdict, which... I mean, it'd be interesting to know what before you give the score, what's your rundown on that? What's your summary, overall summary?
So, I mean, they've obviously gone into this. They were not afraid of out-of-the-box thinking when it came to songwriting, because even at 1995, at this point, there's some. You've got a lot going on. Yes, the alternative metal scene or alternative rock scenes are all there, but you've obviously got grunge, you've got new metal on there, and then they've come out and they're basically not afraid to try to think outside and not try to write an album worth of. I mean, because if you think about things like Under the Bridge and all that sort of stuff, they could have easily gone out there and just written radio singles and tried to just keep pushing those out. But what they've gone out and done is they've done that, but they've done it within their own rules. I mean, and we know from like history, they did that whole concept. They just wore no clothes on stage, and so they were very opinionated. They were very much about not doing what everyone else tells them, and they definitely did that on this album. At points, it works really well. At other points, it doesn't. It isn't an album that is gonna, for a casual listener, is gonna suck you in. There are better Red Hot Chili Peppers albums that are gonna do that for you. Just get a greatest hits album, and you'll probably find it a lot more for you. But I think after 1 or 2 listens to this album, you can really start to appreciate the thought process that went into the writing. Saying that, though, from my score, it went up as I listened to it, the more times I listened to it, but it's going to be a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis. I'm going to say it one more time. This is a rock album with a real edge to it, and you can sense the self-destruction and sabotage, and even without reading the lyrics, Kiedis is just quite unhinged on this, isn't he? It's a dark album, actually, and it's never dull. It has its flaws, P being one of them, which is just such an abysmal track, not needed. But I do like that latent darkness. It makes it fascinating. So I know that, it's interesting you just said they could have just carried on with Under the Bridge and done radio singles. Well, they actually do that on Californication.
They do, and
the sales go back up from 2 million on this record, which was almost seen as a failure, back up to 11 million on that record. But it doesn't have the edge. Good album. I remember buying it when it came out in 1999. But yeah, I think that this is the last time when they really were, even perhaps unsure of their identity. They were just outsiders in Hollywood. They had all this money. They'd had success they probably didn't expect in 1992, shifting 7 million records. But with that comes the pressure of following up. Let's not forget, in 1991-92, they had Nirvana supporting them on an arena tour. So they're very much a big part of that conversation of 90s culture and alternative rock, with Jane's Addiction, Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, all these bands, and they've gone on to be the biggest selling alternative rock band of all time. They're so reliable. So I would give this, like you, a 7 out of 10. There's some flaws on it, but there's some real moments of fascination. You can get a lot out of this and forgive some of those flaws. So not the best one in the catalogue. Probably the most dangerous album they've done, though. Yeah. That's what I love about it.
Before I wrap up, I have one thought about this one. So obviously we had John left the band, in 92?
Yeah, it was.
Around that one. And then Navarro, and then they had some guys filling in for a while and stuff like that. And Navarro came in 93?
I think, it would have been definitely 94. That probably was late 90s.
That was around when Jane's Addiction kind of fell apart, wasn't it? Oh no, Corner for Pirate.
They had fallen apart by then. You are right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, because of the amount of songs on here that were so bass heavy and bass driven, I wonder how much of this album was written before Dave Navarro came into the fold, as far as some of these core tracks. Specifically tracks as well where we go from one style of song into a completely different other vibe, which were, so we had these parts written, and then Dave Navarro didn't have that much to add, and then there's other bits where you hear Dave coming in, because it doesn't feel like a guitar written album. I couldn't imagine Dave coming into the studio and go, I've got this idea for a new song. It goes, well, you can't just do the sound effect. Where's this feels like the rest of the guys, this feels to me like Flea and Chad went off and wrote a load of stuff, and then Kiedis came in with some vocal kind of thoughts around what was going on there, and then Dave came in near the end of the writing of the album when like 80 or 70% or 80% of the tracks were kind of roughly written out, and then came in and added his sort of tuppence to it. What's your thoughts?
That's exactly how it sounds to me as well, and I have done a bit of research into it. Navarro, big difference between Jane's Addiction and the Chillers. He's gone from a band where Perry Farrell kind of just dictates what needs to be done, and he said the biggest cultural shock to him was joining the Chillers. They booked the studio time, and it's like they're still jamming. He couldn't get used to that. Like, all the songs come about through jamming, which no one, I don't think hardly anyone does now in rock. It was a lot more common then, but he was not used to that. And you're right, probably like songs like My Friends is the closest you get to a John Frusciante type song, you know, quite intricate guitar picking, that's guitar led, but there's so few songs on here. I don't want to say that diminishes his guitar work. I think it's really interesting. It's just not carrying.
Which just means he's got to think. He has to now think, where can he put something into a song? Because if he's not playing, like, so we've mentioned obviously things like Californication. You can hear that on a guitar. You can play that song, and you can tell that's a guitar written song. There's not that much interesting for Flea, so Flea's having to add his own level of colour to that song. Whereas on this, Flea's got all of the whole rhythm section holding that all together and all the songwriting, and now Dave's got to come in and go, well, where do I fit in there? Where's the space for me? And he manages to craft his own space within these tracks, which is very interesting, without being like, well, I can play a riff here, or I can play a chord progression. Because if he's just started playing chords over the funk parts and started playing effectively what we do with basses a lot of the time, it would have sounded awful. So he had to kind of really be creative, which I think is a lot harder than if he'd just been able to write chord progressive riffs.
Funk's not his style either. He doesn't even really like funk music. He's on record of saying that. So a lot of those chords that Hillel Slovak and John Frusciante would have been using, you know, because they listen to stuff like Frank Zappa, don't they? And obviously Parliament, you know, the funk bands. That's, again, he's way out of his comfort zone here, and I think it works. And he does bring a heavier aspect to the music here, doesn't he? There are some moments where you're like, ooh, Jesus Christ, that is, you know, almost getting on for like sludge metal, you know, like the end, as we said, to One Big Mob. So I think he does make this a unique album. John Frusciante, though, he said, fans have said, like, what do you know about this album? He said, I've never listened to it, because he comes back into the fold. He said something along the lines, it'd be like watching your ex-wife with someone else. I don't know, some kind of analogy like that. And I completely understand, because the guitar styles are so different between the two. But yeah, I think that's what makes this such a fascinating record, though, isn't it? Because they're up against it, and I think they know that, the commercial pressure. And eventually they've probably just cracked and thought, fuck it, we're a rock band, we're just going to do what we want. And that's what they do in the end.
True. Well, let us know what you think for you at home watching the video. What did you think about the album? Would you have scored it a 7 out of 10 as well? Thank you very much for watching today, and we'll see you on a video sometime very soon. Take care.